NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I am Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers, and we are here to recap day 2, rounds 2 and 3 of the 2022 NFL Draft. Connor, my man, we're more than halfway through, and by that I mean until we get to sleep again, because right now it's once again night 2 of running on absolute fumes. And so, like it was last night, means we're not going to hold anything back. We're barely conscious right now. So all of the true thoughts and opinions on what happened on day 2, we're about to let them fly. Buddy, how you feeling tonight?
Good, man. It's funny. It's the same playbook again. You leave PFF, I leave Bleacher Report. We both shove as much food as we can down our throats after being alive for like 6 hours. And then hopefully the food digests while you and I do our podcast before we hopefully sleep for a couple hours and then go back into our studios and do it all again tomorrow, I wouldn't trade this life for anything else. I would like to make that clear.
Yes.
But, buddy, when a cold beer hits my lips tomorrow and a warm bed is on the table for more than 4 hours of sleep, I will feel real nice.
It's going to be very glorious. But we got picks to talk about. We got picks to see before that point. Before we talk about everything that happened on day 2 of the NFL Draft, got to remind you guys that this podcast is sponsored by our friends over at Jock Market. That's Jock MKT. Stop betting, start trading. That is their motto. It's a great blend of fantasy football and daily fantasy sports as well, because it's player-based matchup stuff. It's not just a team. It's not just, okay, I think this team's going to win by this much, beat the spread. It's, okay, I think this player's got a great matchup tonight. Let's throw some money on it that they're going to have a great performance. And that's what it all boils down to. Check it out. Jock Market. That's jockmkt.com/PFF. Also on the App Store. Use promo code PFF and they will match up to 100% on whatever your deposit is if it's under $100. Plus you get a free PFF Edge subscription. It's such a cool concept. This podcast absolutely endorses it. You guys should check it out. Connor, I don't know how you want to do this necessarily. I was thinking about just kind of going down the list, firing at the hip from round 2 of the NFL Draft. Logan Hall ends up going. We won't go through every single pick, but I'm just highlighting a couple here. Logan Hall ends up going 33 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were told by John Lader on the guest mock draft series that Logan Hall was very high on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers radar. We thought that could have been the pick at 27. I feel like it would have been the pick at 27 had they not found a trade back and gotten some extra draft value. So that one, not too much of a shock. I think the one that elicited the most emotion right off the bat was Christian Watson going to the Green Bay Packers. They get the guy who we said this is their type of receiver, and Packers fans didn't want to hear it, but guess what? It happened.
Yeah, I know I was tough on them on last night's pod because they didn't, I think, have a plan to be aggressive at the top of the draft to go get a wide receiver. Now, I will not say I'm apologizing for that, because I would still rather have gone up and gotten Chris Olave for this offense or somebody along those lines, and rather than taking. I just want to be transparent here, and I know you've been with me, Trevor. Like, I like Christian Watson, a size speed prospect. I think Christian Watson is still a little bit of a project right now, where you're trying to win Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers right now. Is Christian Watson ready to be the guy in an offense? I think that's a little unfair. So I really like this pick. I really do. I think it's a good pick, but I just wish they were a little bit more aggressive at the top. Like I said, this was an exciting one, though, amongst many. I really liked Logan Hall for the Bucs. You were saying they needed a gap shooter, and they got a guy that could do that. So that's a really exciting add to that defensive front for Todd Bowles.
Look, if Christian Watson pans out, it's a great draft, right? Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt in the first round. They go Christian Watson, and then in the third round, they got Sean Ryan, the athletic offensive tackle from UCLA with a lot of upside.
Man, I liked that pick as much as the other ones. I like that pick as much as anything. I think that he fits. They're so good at drafting offensive linemen on day 2. It just fit that mold.
Yep. As you go a little bit further down the list here, got to bring the tab back up. Round 2, Roger McCreary, Tennessee Titans, which I thought was interesting.
Solid.
So you know me, I like Roger McCreary.
Yeah, you like him a lot.
I'm super high on Roger McCreary, so I'm glad he was an early second round pick. Didn't think he'd go to the Titans. I feel like the Titans would want longer armed, bigger bodied secondary players. I didn't see this as a landing spot for him, but I don't hate it. In theory, they've got Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton, Roger McCreary, 3 really good coverage players, I think, in theory, but there's a lot of in theory.
How are you playing them, though? That's what I'm fascinated to watch.
they got to think McCreary's going to play slot for them.
So that's what I thought. It was interesting. We had Richard Sherman on, and we threw to him when McCreary got taken. And, he was saying how hard it is to just kick inside of the slot. And I agree, but he did work out there at the Senior Bowl, too. And you look at the construction of this team right now. I thought the same thing, Trevor. I think that he's going to be a slot player for them. Real physical player. They like that in their secondary.
Doesn't have experience in this in the slot, though.
Not in regular season, no.
Right. So it's a total work in progress for him there. Definitely something that he is going to have to work on. We can hit on your New York Jets now because they ended up taking Breece Hall. They also took Jeremy Ruckert later in the draft in the 3rd round. What'd you think of those 2 picks there with Breece Hall and Jeremy Ruckert?
In a span of 2 days, the Jets became fun. I don't know if the Jets are going to be good this year. I think that would be a little rich because we just don't know what Zach Wilson is going to be. The Jets are a hell of a lot of fun. You got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall, my number 1 wide receiver, my number 1 running back, and then Jeremy Ruckert, my number 2 tight end. It felt like a team that was so anemic on offense for so long. Now you look at it and you go, okay, I can see some pieces here. This thing's going to be growing. This thing's fun. Zach Wilson's got a lot of help. You're going to figure out if he's the guy. I loved Breece Hall in the top 40 of this draft. He was my number 30 overall player. I thought he was going to go in the 1st round. I was curious to see how aggressive teams would be to get him. And the Jets went up and got a guy that, I've been saying it, and people really come at me. They do not like when I say this. I like Michael Carter for what he is. Michael Carter, to me, is your number 2 in a backfield. He's not the 1A. He's not the workhorse kind of guy. He's a nice player. But when they started to use him as a workhorse last year, he got hurt. And then it was Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman, and that's not good enough. So now you got Breece Hall, and I think that's really exciting.
And I think that they drafted Breece Hall as such, right?
Breece Hall is the guy.
Said there. Right. They drafted him to be that probably RB1, and you're going to get plenty of the mix of the other guys. They're going to be able to come in, and it's not going to be a full Derrick Henry kind of like workhorse role, but Breece Hall is going to be the starting pitcher, if you will, in that rotation for the New York Jets. That's certainly the way it seems.
Did you see what he said?
Who?
Breece Hall said that the Jets told him, and I think Joe Douglas might have confirmed this, the Jets tried to get in the 1st round for the 4th time last night, at the end of last night, to get Breece Hall. And they couldn't. And then when they saw him falling, they moved up to the Giants today.
Didn't you tell me that Joe Douglas is cheap like a couple of days before the draft when I was talking to you about potential trade-ups for the Jets?
I said. Stingy.
Stingy is the word.
Yeah. Did you see the offer for Deebo Samuel?
Dude.
That's stingy.
Would they give 10 overall and a 5th? Wasn't that what it was?
No. They wanted to flip 10 and 61 for Deebo Samuel. They wanted to flip 10 with 61 and a 5th for Deebo Samuel.
I didn't even see the 61 part.
Because it was labeled as a 2nd rounder, but it's like, no, it's pick 61. They wanted to flip 10 with 61 for Deebo Samuel. And the Niners were like,
no way that was going to happen.
The Niners were like, absolutely not. And the Jets were like, all right, cool, we'll draft Garrett Wilson. See you later.
That's 100% ridiculous. The next draft that I want to touch on is the Atlanta Falcons. And I want to talk about a couple of players in their haul here because I loved it too. I really loved this draft haul from them. They obviously go and they get Drake London in the 1st round. Day 2 for them, Arlen Ibikade, pass rusher, Troy Anderson, the linebacker from Montana State, Desmond Ridder, one of the quarterbacks, and we're going to dig into the quarterback conversation in a second here. This is a good segue into it, but Desmond Ridder, and then your guy, D'Angelo Malone, who you had, top 40, top 35?
No, I think let's see. We'll pull it up right now. I had him 41.
Okay, 41. So close. I was close. So you loved it. You loved this class. I did as well.
I mean, I had Ibikade, 26th, Malone, 41. I think they got their 2 pass rushers right there. Let them rip. Let them ride. I forgot until you just said it because it moved so fast, grading all the picks, that Troy Anderson was obviously gone as well there too. Just a dynamic athlete. I mean, man, Atlanta had a lot of needs, and it's going to take a little while to get it right there, but really damn good start. And we like Drake London a lot too, so they did a good job day 1. I'll take it right here. The Ravens are lapping everyone, man. The Ravens are just...
Eric DeCosta's out here playing 4D chess against these other teams, man.
He's just getting 1st rounders after 1st rounders for me, and he doesn't care what holes people are picking. And I know Ajabo was hurt. I still think Ajabo should have went earlier. I mean, the fact he was the 45th pick in the draft, I thought he was a top 20 player. I mean, you look at getting Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum. Okay, I mean, that's unbelievable, obviously. They got Travis Jones, who was a first-round grade for me.
100%.
I mean, how did they just keep doing this? And then, I think someone, said to me, like, oh, well, they don't win in the playoffs. And I'm like, man, you can't keep looking back when you look at a draft class like this. This is how you draft. That defense is going to be awesome. And they're going to be teach tape. If you want to learn more about defense and how to team build, watch the Baltimore Ravens for the next 2 years. I find them to be fascinating.
Dude, when did John Harbaugh get there? I think it was 2008. Is it 2006?
It's been a long time. It's been at least a decade.
I believe it is 2008. Yeah, it's 2008. Since 2008, there have only been 5 seasons in which they have not made the playoffs. And of those 5 seasons, only 2 of them did they finish below 500. Don't talk to me about like, oh, the Ravens haven't been able to get over the hump. They are either in the playoffs or above 500 every single year for almost a decade and a half. And the reason why is because they are better at this drafting thing. They are better at this team building thing than almost every other organization in the NFL. And this draft that they are currently having is stellar. Not only is it the 4 picks that they currently have that are incredible between Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum and David Ojabo and Logan Hall, 4 fantastic players. They also were able to ship off Marquise Brown for number 23 overall to make all this stuff happen. They're wheeling and dealing and trading down and making moves and just making their roster great. They're kick-ass job by the Baltimore Ravens. Incredible. I think the Chiefs also had one hell of a draft.
Yeah, they've been solid. I mean, I obviously really, really like McDuffie. I don't know if I like Karlaftis for where they got him. I wouldn't say he fires me up. And then you look at obviously, what they did on day 2 was where I started to be like, okay, now I'm jacked up. Sky Moore,
Brian Cook, Leo Chenal.
Awesome picks. Awesome. And it was value too, the way you look at how 100%. They got them. I mean, for me with Sky Moore, that 10-yard split was an elite metric. He's going to get down the field vertically for Pat Mahomes. He was my 40th player. You said they got Chenal. He was my 55th player. I called him a taller Nick Bolton. They obviously loved what they had in Nick Bolton. They got another one. It's kind of funny how that works. And then you look at Brian Cook, like you said, a guy that played slot, free safety, and in the box. He's an animal.
Nick Bolton and Leo Chenal, just 2 guys that are just going to be battering Rams on the interior offensive line, just blitzing for that team.
Insane.
I do want to go back and talk about the quarterbacks a little bit.
Sure.
Connor, this quarterback draft was both exactly what we thought and absolutely nothing like what we thought all at the same time. And I think it comes down to the fact that when we all watch these quarterbacks, there's not many people out there that probably gave many quarterbacks in this draft, if any at all, first-round grades. The consensus certainly seemed like that was not the case.
Boy, a lot of writers were saying 13, 14 teams have first-round grades on this guy. Right. I read it all week, man. Stop doing this every year. Every year we get to draft week and this BS drops.
We told ourselves that the NFL was just going to draft these guys high. Whether they had them as first-round grades or not, we thought that they were going to draft them high. Connor, it was 54 picks between QB1 and QB2. Kenny Pickett went 20th overall, and Desmond Ridder went 74th. In 2022, this is the age of passing. This is the age of if it's never meant more that you either have a quarterback or you don't. That saying has never been truer than this moment right now for where the game of football is. And we had QB1 go 20, and we had QB2 go 74. My mind was absolutely blown as QB needy team after QB needy team continued to get on the clock during the second round, and none of them took any of these guys.
Yeah, and I think the biggest story is that Malik Willis made it to 86. And, I kind of felt bad for Malik Willis, and he's got the right attitude. I'm sure he's okay. And I think the situation worked out for him. I kind of like Malik Willis chilling on the Titans behind Ryan Tannehill, right? Let him develop. Let him build some chemistry in camp with Treylon Burks. But you're right, Trevor. It's fascinating to me how often we heard teams will just do it. They'll just do it. They can't help themselves. They'll take the darts. And teams maybe are getting away from that. Was this a turning point in NFL draft history that there's more conviction on quarterbacks where guys are like, you know what? The chance of this guy hitting is so small. And the fact that if we make him a first-round pick, we've tied our regime to him.
Right.
If we make him a second-round pick, there's still some expectations. Let's just wait to the third and see what happens.
So I was doing a couple of radio hits the morning before day 2 of the draft, and a lot of people wanted to know about the quarterbacks, obviously, because only one had gone off the board, Kenny Pickett, at that point in time. And that was the main point that I said to them. When you're a general manager, if you pick a quarterback in the first round, your reputation then goes on that player. But honestly, any round after the first round, even the second round, and your reputation isn't really on that player because it's a cop-out. You could say to yourself, well, come on, quarterback's the most important position in the game. Of course I can't. You can't judge my job off of a guy who was picked in the second round. That's not the right way to do things. And you know what? There's validity to that. But I thought that these other teams would take a stab at it at the beginning of the second round, because that would have been the place where, okay, I'm comfortable. I don't have to have my job on the line with this guy, and depending on how he does. But it turns out, man, that we all watch these quarterbacks and we said, nope, none of them are probably day one starters. They should probably sit for at least a year first, and we don't see any franchise saviors. And the league drafted them as such. Desmond Ridder gets to sit behind Marcus Mariota. Malik Willis gets to sit behind Ryan Tannehill. Matt Corral, in theory, gets to sit behind Sam Darnold, but we all know that Sam Darnold's probably not going to play well. Matt Corral might be the first one of this entire group to start. But that they're in situations that are better off than what it would have been of drafting these guys early and throwing them to the wolves, if you will. So we're sitting here. I'm certainly sitting here shocked at how they were picked because of the perception that we thought that they were going to go off the board a lot earlier. But in reality, this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted this exact setup for these QBs. Draft them later, draft them in the middle, end of day 2, let them sit behind an established starter. Maybe you'll have something in a couple of years if they start to blossom.
Yeah, you're all over it. I think we got there. And I think, you know what, quietly didn't help this quarterback class amongst all of it? Not only were they developmental guys, but they were older developmental guys, where if you're taking one and you're going, okay, I know I'm going to sit him for at least a year or two. Are you saying that he's not going to be good to go until he's 25, maybe even 26 years old? It's just unheard of in the NFL, that level of breakout. So, you know, good for the Titans to get Malik Willis when they did. Good for the Falcons to get Desmond Ridder when they did. It was funny to me. I thought I was going to be painfully low on this quarterback class compared to where they went, and I knew live on the stream I'd have to explain that. And I had Desmond Ridder 68th, and he went like 74th. And I was like, this is exactly what I expected. This is exactly what I want. Not what I expected. I expected him to go in the first round or the top of the second round. And I'm like, maybe the NFL is really sticking to grades here and understanding that just because a guy is a quarterback, you still have to factor in the potential bust rate or the lack of being a hit rate. And the fact that you need to treat these guys differently. The fact that because of their shortcomings, they do need to be drafted as third-round picks because the expectations and the being forced to play situation is so different. So it's really fascinating to me. I do think we're going to spiral back next year where there's going to be some really top-flight underclassmen, obviously, and a Young and Stroud and a couple of there's a couple other guys too.
Spencer Rattler,
Will Levis,
Tyler Van Dyke.
Maybe this is early to say. I'm pretty much out on Rattler, but I get it. We have to at least watch him and monitor that.
Right.
You're right. There's a lot of guys. I know you're going to be writing about a lot of them, which is going to be exciting to see. But yeah, I think it'll go back next year where you're seeing a lot of, but they're underclassmen, right? So that'll be part of it too.
I was just going to say, I'd love to hear a couple more full draft classes. Well, they're not full draft classes yet, but draft hall so far that you really liked. But I'll point out one while you think of one.
I didn't have to think, but go on.
Okay. You're a professional. You're right. I shouldn't have doubted you.
No, it was just so easy.
The Houston Texans
low key
are having a sneaky good draft, dude. Derek Stingley up at the top. Kenyon Green in the middle of the first round. Okay, if they get a starting caliber offensive lineman out of Kenyon Green, that's going to be fine. That pick's going to be fine. Jalen Petrie at the beginning of day 2.
Nice player.
John Mechie, a guy who I really like as a wide receiver, and I think I'm higher on John Mechie. I think we're higher on John Mechie than a lot of other people seem to be. And then Christian Harris at 75 to kind of round things out on day 2. Look, I am very accustomed to hating Houston Texans drafts.
I get it.
And so me looking at this list, I looked at it before the show and I was like, you know what? Casario's kind of killing it. I actually like these picks that he's making here. I think that they all help the Houston Texans in a lot of ways. Derek Stingley, of course, is a little bit unique because if they're going to run more of a zone scheme with Lovie Smith, it's kind of not making the most out of Stingley's abilities, but perhaps they're going to start playing a lot more man coverage just because they've got the horses to do so. Like I said, Kenyon Green, if he becomes a starting caliber offensive lineman, that's a great hit. Jalen Petrie, a really nice slot defender who's a very unique, gifted secondary guy who can shut down a lot of different shapes and sizes of slots in the NFL. John Mechie, we mentioned, I like him as an all-around wide receiver, knows the position very well, really nice route runner, does all the details well, blocking as well. So he's kind of a full package wide receiver when he's fully healthy. And then Christian Harris, you're taking a chance on a really athletic linebacker, 5-star prospect going into Alabama, started playing right away because of how gifted he is athletically. And man, when the light is on for him, it looks really good. So Houston having a really nice draft so far 2 days into this thing.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be how they use these players, right? Like you said with Stingley, I don't want to see him playing heavy zone. I want to see him being a man press corner. When you look at Christian Harris, I think at Alabama, a lot of times he got stuck in a lot of traffic, and I'd rather see him be a weak side backer that can run and chase, and I think he's good at that. For me, the draft class I thought of right away was the Philadelphia Eagles when I factor in A.J. Brown. And we talked a lot about Jordan Davis and A.J. Brown already, but what they did as a follow-up on day 2, I loved Cam Jurgens. I was obviously really high on Cam Jurgens. I had him, man, super high. I'm looking for him right now. I had him as the 42nd overall player in this draft. And, I just think that he's that athletic Ryan Khalil type of center that fits so much what they want to do. They had Jason Kelce watch him, and Jason Kelce was like, yep, this is the guy. And it's kind of cool that they have that kind of pipeline there where Kelce's going to play this year, but you have Jurgens coming into camp. He's going to learn a ton from Kelce, who's such a willing vet to help out the young guys, and then he could pass that torch. And for the Eagles, that's pretty special to have that kind of pipeline at center. So that's pretty cool for Cam Jurgens. And then they got Nakobe Dean, who I thought was a top 20 player in this draft. I saw a lot of the stuff going around in the injuries. I know it's real. And I knew about these, not everything, but I knew about a lot of it before the draft, and I was still willing to keep him in the top 20. I just think he's such a good football player. He's so instinctual. I think he's going to figure it out, and that's a risk at the 3rd round I'm willing to take for a team that never values linebacker, and they still didn't value linebacker. They waited till the 3rd round, but they got a 1st-round linebacker. So this draft class is phenomenal. This team got a lot better. The Birds fans are jacked up right now, and it's big time for them. They should be excited. This was just to me, pretty close to a masterclass from Howie Roseman.
Now, look, I love the Dean pick. I really do, especially at that point in the draft. And I tweeted out a meme where it was, Bugs Bunny looking like a king. And it was essentially, I said, Howie Roseman, if Nakobe Dean ever becomes a starter, ever. Like, I'm not even talking about next year or maybe the year after that. It doesn't matter. If this guy becomes healthy at some point to become anything close to the Nakobe Dean that we saw at the University of Georgia, this pick is a massive win. But
that's how I feel.
There's definitely things to note about it. First and foremost, Nakobe Dean is playing the linebacker position, which is predicated off of you are making contact every single play. There's no hiding that. And when you look at Nakobe Dean, our own Austin Gale of PFF,
I saw that,
kind of broke the news with, it's not just the pec injury that he had, which he has. It's not just the ankle and the knee issues that he has, which he has. There is also, he declined shoulder surgery, according to a source, and that became another major concern and a red flag. So now you've got a pectoral injury, a shoulder surgery that might need to happen, knee and ankle issues, and you look at this guy already and the body was small. He's 5'11", which is 5th percentile for linebackers, 229 pounds, which is 13th percentile for linebackers. He's just not a big dude. So he's not a big guy, and he's a beat up guy for a position that demands physicality on every single snap. That's not good. That's why he falls to that point. And even dude, draft Nakobe Dean and don't even play him next year. Tell him, Nakobe,
That's what I said.
the whole year is just about you getting right.
Yep.
Get the surgeries. We'll be with you every step of the way. The trainers will be with you. There's no pressure at all. We'll get you ready for 2023. You're not going to play football next year, but we believe in you. You're going to come in. You're going to have a chance to be our starter right in the middle of this defense in 2023. You got to get right. And if they do that, man, this could be a hell of a pick for them.
That's how I felt. I even knowing all of the medical things, I just thought that it's worth the risk at that point in the third round because he was one of the best football players in this draft. And he's a guy that's honestly going to play a lot of Sundays banged up. And he's not going to tell anyone besides the training staff. And he's going to play with all this different kind of stuff, wrapped shoulder, wrapped knee, cold tub, everything that goes on behind the scenes in the NFL to get through NFL games. He's going to be one of those guys because he is a smaller guy and he's taken a beating at Georgia and he was willing to put his body on the line to win a national championship. But I mean, and I understand teams draft for what they're going to get, right? That's why his two teammates, I think, did Tyndall go ahead of him or did Tyndall? I think Tyndall went ahead of him.
No,
was it close?
Tyndall went to the Dolphins.
I knew that. I just didn't know if it was after.
No, it was after. I think it was almost 20 picks after. No,
okay.
10 picks. Something like that. He went after him.
It was closer, a hell of a lot closer than it freaking should have been.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me just make it that clear. And I thought Tyndall was a fine pick, but when you look at it, yeah, I mean, Nakobe Dean, man, I'm rooting for him. I think he's a hell of a player, and I'm with you, Trevor. Let him get right. Let him get healthy. Maybe it's going to be hard talking him into that, but you got an employer now that if they're looking out for the best of you, listen to him, and I think there's just incredible value in that spot.
All right, so we'll go through a handful more hauls. We're not going to do all of them this evening.
Yeah, we're going to bed.
Connor and I.
I'll say it. I'm going to bed. I got to be back in New York City in 5 hours.
Connor needs to go to bed, but we're also going to be dedicating a lot of the next couple of weeks to deep dives into these teams' hauls. We're going to give them draft grades. We're going to tell you all the fits and everything. Look. Chicago Bears, that's the team that I'm looking at right now. Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, great players. I like them a lot. They are making that secondary much, much better. I like those players. That ain't helping Justin Fields. Like, I get it that a good defense could also help Justin Fields, but that offense is so depleted. They've got nobody to throw the ball to outside of Darnell Mooney. I know they drafted Velus Jones, but I'm not the highest on Velus Jones. He's also a much older prospect, so that was a questionable choice for me. And the offensive line, I think, is sus. It is.
That's polite.
So when you look at Justin Fields, this is him going into year 2 of his contract. What are you saying that, okay, next offseason, we're just going to catapult and get better, a lot better at the offensive line. And then the offseason after that, we're going to get better at receiver. Then you're going into the final year of Justin Fields' rookie year. I don't know, man. I don't feel like there is a sense of urgency with Justin Fields the way that I would like for there to be. And so I like the players they drafted, but I'm a little skeptical at the plan here with Justin Fields.
I don't know what more signs you want to see. I'm not saying they don't like Justin Fields. It's not what I'm saying. They have shown no urgency to build around Justin Fields right now. They use their picks, like you said, on good football players to help the defense. They have started to shed money. They're trying to get a clean slate, and I respect that, and I get it for the Bears. But, you obviously move on from Khalil Mack. We've already heard some rumblings about Robert Quinn. The offensive line is not any good. They don't have any wide receivers besides Darnell Mooney. They're a bunch of depth guys. You added some nice pieces to the defense, and I think this defense is going to be really good one day under Eberflus. I think it's still a work in progress because he needs another draft and another real free agency to get pieces.
Right.
Trevor, I mean, this is like and I liked Justin Fields a lot. He was a top 5 player for me. I had him only behind Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson in that draft class. His timeline does not match the new regime's timeline. And somebody has to be honest and admit that.
Doesn't seem like it.
They didn't draft him, and he's going to get a shot this year. And there's a chance he plays Superman, and he's so good that they're like, okay, now he was so good, what's it going to be like when we get pieces around him? It's really hard to be Superman year 2 in your NFL year. After year 1, you were hurt, and you were in a terrible infrastructure, and amongst those things, you didn't play very well. So, I mean, I just look at it. I look at all the things Jacksonville is at least trying around Trevor Lawrence, including the coaching hire. I look at all of the pieces that Joe Douglas has gotten Zach Wilson. I look at Trey Lance under Kyle Shanahan. I look at Mac Jones in New England. It is so stark, the difference of what those 4 teams have tried to do for their quarterbacks, while the Bears regime that didn't draft him hasn't done a single thing.
It's
they've lost pieces.
It's a roster that has not gone in the right direction since 2018. That roster has only gotten worse. And
the new guys deserve the clean slate. Eberflus and Poles.
And I'm not even saying that tonight they didn't draft good players. I think they drafted good players.
I like the players they took.
Right. It's just you've got Justin Fields. You got to build around Justin Fields. You got to make the most out of that.
They're telling you that their timeline does not match his. It's concerning. It's concerning if you like Justin Fields, and I just wonder what the real, what the situation is there.
The Patriots draft.
The Thornton pick was more bananas than strange.
Do the Patriots have 18 total players on their board? I think the Patriots have close to 20 players on their big board. 20. And that's I'm obviously like sort of joking here, but how are you 3 rounds into this thing and you've got Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, and Marcus Jones in rounds 1, 2, and 3?
Jones was the best pick in value.
If it was anybody else other than Bill Belichick, I'd go, this is lunacy. I like Marcus Jones. I want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah,
I like Cole Strange. I do not like
Tyquan Thornton, by the way.
But I'm telling you, their big board was like 20 players long, and they said, we don't give a damn. We do not care. We are drafting the players on our board, our very small board that we believe is Patriot players, and we don't give a damn where they are on the consensus board, where we think they're going to get picked. We want them, and we're going to draft them accordingly to where we have them ranked. And that's what I think the Patriots are doing.
Man, Tyquan Thornton, 190 on the consensus board. He was 189 for me. Ironically, it's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Here's the thing, because I know the counter argument, like this is the counter argument for Cole Strange was, but like he's going to be a good player, and I don't disagree. You're drafting in a different world than everyone else, and if you think you're the one that's right compared to the other 31 teams, because maybe you deserve that, maybe you are right, why not get more draft capital a couple of times? Or I just don't. Part of the draft isn't just drafting good players. They already have
draft capital.
It's working. It's working the board and understanding the board. Yeah, they did have draft capital.
Bill ain't got no time for that anymore. He ain't got no time for it. He's just there to draft the good players. He's not there to play the game. He just wants the Patriots players.
Cal Adamitis tomorrow. Buckle up. Long snapper, Pitt.
I think I'm gonna hate every Steve Keim draft that just ever exists. I think I'm settling.
I'm at the point where I'm impressed personally.
With what?
That you can be like this off the rails for so long and just keep getting swings.
Dude, they've drafted off-ball linebacker, and a tight end in the last 3 drafts. And before that, they drafted quarterback. They drafted a quarterback in the top 10 and then a quarterback at number 1 overall the next year.
Well, let's look at it. And, I mean, Trevor, we did 700 mock drafts with them taking offensive line. The offensive line's not going to be any good this year. Nope. At all.
Hey, but I like Trey McBride. Hey, but they got receivers, though. They have Marquise Brown now.
They want to play. They want to play Big 12 football, and obviously they hired Cliff. It's not going to work in the NFC. It's not going to work in the NFL. I really wasn't that hot on Cam Thomas. I like Myjai Sanders a lot. I like Trey McBride a lot.
I don't like him when he weighs 230 pounds.
He got back up to 2. He was sick. I think his pro day he was 247. But I mean, the offensive line is just not very good, and I just think it's going to catch up to them. And I just don't understand the strategy, personally.
I agree with you. Let's take a look at some guys that are still on the board before we get out of here. Sammy Howell.
Sam Howell. This is the official podcast of Daniel Falele.
Yep, Daniel Falele is still there.
Darian Kennard.
Dude, how is Darian Kennard on the board?
How about Luke Fortner getting drafted before his teammate?
What the hell is that about? And I like Luke Fortner.
I do not at all.
I was like,
fine. What? He's like a very solid backup center in a gap scheme.
Okay, so I didn't think that he was going to be like a starting caliber center.
Sure.
I guess when I say I liked him, I should have said, I guess.
Yeah. You liked him for what he was.
Yeah, but he's fine. How in the world is he getting drafted above Darian Kennard? What are we doing? We have taken is he a tackle, is he a guard BS way too far at this point with this guy still on the board. His knees are awful, which I don't know if that's the case. I just remember every time I watched him play, he's wearing those massive braces. So I don't know. Maybe the knees are bad. And again, like that's not like a source. I don't know anything. I'm just taking a guess because how do you watch Darian Kennard and you're picking Luke Fortner over him? They're not the same player, but it's just in the same realm. Like, how is this guy still on the board?
Isaiah Spiller still on the board?
I didn't think Isaiah Spiller was going in the first 3 rounds.
There was some buzz around there that he was challenging Breece Hall to be the first running back taken. Draft buzz is a beautiful thing. I'm disappointed Dameon Pierce is still on the board. I liked him better than a lot of running backs that went today. How about Ty Davis Price going to the 49ers in the 3rd round?
Yeah, that was, and I'm just going to say it, dumb.
Really dumb.
Really dumb.
I don't even think he fits their scheme.
They drafted 2 running backs last year.
Elijah
Mitchell was drafted in the 6th round, 7th round, right?
Yep.
And Connor, he hit.
I know.
He was a 6th, 7th round running back that hit. That allows you to not have to draft a running back.
Kyle can't help himself.
What are we doing? You drafted 2 last year, and the one you drafted later in the draft hit. He was good. What are you doing?
I know.
That was mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing.
Insane. My best player available is Jamari Salyer.
He's still there. Very surprised.
Yeah, I like him. I'm not surprised. I thought he'd make it to day 3. I really like Malcolm Rodriguez, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. Kobe Bryant still there. A little bit of a surprise.
No. Kobe Bryant's still there. Yeah,
Kobe Bryant's still there.
Brian
Cook did go. Not really a ton of surprises.
Perry and Winfrey still there. I thought that he was going to be a second.
I thought he'd be a 3rd round pick. I heard with Winfrey, it's a little bit of wondering. I'm always careful with these things. People really like his talent. They are on the tape. Obviously we saw that. We saw him kick ass in the Senior Bowl.
Right.
They're a little concerned about the overall buy-in because of the tape.
Okay.
That's why he's there.
All right.
I checked on that one when day 2 ended.
Okay. All right. Khalil Shakir still on the board, who I like, who's going to be a really nice day 3 pick. I figured he'd probably be a day 3 pick, but really liked him. Josh Williams.
Yeah, one of my favorite players left on the board, 94th overall.
Yep.
How about this one, Trevor? I'm actually shocked by this one because of the old traditional rule of speed. Mm-hmm. Calvin Austin is still out there.
I thought that he was going to go somewhere late day
2nd round.
I would
have said late 2nd round.
Oh, you would have said second. I
have him 85th, so I didn't grade him that way, but I just think the NFL overdrafts speed all the time.
All right.
Charlie Kohler's out there. I thought Cade Otton was going to go today. I think team
convinced, but I could have seen it.
Yeah.
Tariq Woolen is still there. I was wondering if somebody was going to take the flyer until
which is good. That would have been. He's got a long ways to go, but he is a freak athlete. He's a freak athlete.
But I was wondering if somebody's going to. Our boy Kyron Williams, obviously still there. There's a lot of players who I'm just really excited to see. Maybe they're not going to be high impact guys, but I am excited to see where they're going to land. And that's what day 3 is
a lot of fun.
Day 3 is all about capping off the classes. It's guys that, maybe they're not going to make the roster, but it's those kind of depth character guys that are going to fill out what the tone, what the theme of your team is going to be. And so I said it on the PFF live show, day 2, I feel like is building day, right? You get to build out what your draft strategy really was, what you actually wanted to attack, because you and I were texting earlier today and you were like, round 1 is basically just like, you're trying to pick the most talented player. That's what round 1 is all about. You were trying to pick the most talented player. Day 2, you actually go for strategies in the draft. You're actually building out what your draft strategies are, what your big takeaways are going to be. And then day 3, it's how you cap it off. It's how you build that theme of your roster at the depths, the guys that are going to come in, the backup players, the special teamers. And so that's what day 3 is all about. A lot of guys that
you're absolutely right. Punk God day.
Maybe they're not going to be pro bowlers, but they're going to mean a lot to your team because it takes all 53 to be able to win every single week and get yourself to the playoffs and eventually win a Super Bowl. So, buddy, I'm excited. I know you've got to catch up on a little bit of sleep here before you got an early wake up call to make sure that you're on the show. I've got a show as well. Make sure you guys are checking out the Bleacher Report live stream, the PFF live stream. We're going to be covering day 3 as well as anybody can. So make sure look, if you are a faithful listener to the pod, just have both tabs up. Have both tabs up on the computer.
Well, you don't have to tell us which one you're muting.
Yeah.
If they're both muted for whatever the hell was on the TV tonight, I'm embarrassed for you.
I don't hear any of the audio.
We have like monitors that I could see.
Yeah.
It's like, and I mean, obviously the networks employ incredible people that we love. But there's just so many times the networks are like, it's the draft is like this entertainment factor. Wow. There's like circus stuff going on. Name the picks so we can analyze it and then we can get to bed a little earlier. That's what Twitter is for. It's been fun.
Twitter is for the discussion.
We will be back Monday morning.
Yes. We're not doing a podcast immediately following tomorrow's draft day.
No. If you want Trevor and I to have a voice for Monday morning. I mean, he's been hosting. I've been obviously doing the show. I actually have to host the last day tomorrow.
Oh, hell yeah, brother. Let's go.
Welcome to the party.
Double hosting.
So we'll be back. We'll be back Monday, and you guys know the deal. It's going to be fun to take a breath and then review this. Tonight's kind of like the, shit, here and there kind of thing. So
Monday, we're going to be coming at you with our highest grades, lowest grades, overall thoughts on these total draft hauls. And we're going to be able to talk about some undrafted free agents as well that might be able to sprinkle in some extra bonus points for some teams and some hauls that
we should probably do split into 2 shows. We should grade all the AFC drafts and all the NFC drafts in separate shows.
Well, I figured, well, since we're now doing our show planning live on the show, I figured what we could do is Monday, let's give our top winners, our lowest losers. And then I feel like over the 2 weeks that follow,
fill in the gaps.
We can basically go into each division and kind of really get into the details of what we think about the drafts, what we think, how the team changed, look at the betting win totals for them, and kind of be able to formulate it like that. Does that sound good? All right.
That sounds good to me, Captain.
Does it sound good to you listeners? Okay, all right.
I'll just nod at this point.
You just listen to us.
Anything to get me one step closer to my pillow.
Day 1 in the books. Day 2 now in the books. There's one more day of the 2022 NFL Draft. Connor and I are going to be back with you on Monday morning, recapping everything we loved and the things that we didn't. Excited to see it. This is the NFL Stock Exchange. We'll see you guys then.